Welcome to Life L'Chaim. On today's episode, we're in studio with Amy Botwinick, author of Divorce Party, a new stage play. She'll discuss her divorce, her books, and how she helps couples cope with breakup from a completely new perspective. We'll be right back after these brief messages.
With us in studio today, we're excited to have with us Amy Botwinick, who is a former chiropractor, author, and now musical playwright of Divorce Party, the musical. Amy, thank you very much for joining us on To Life L'Chaim.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us your story.
My story is I had a really challenging divorce, and it lasted for 3 years, and through that period I made a lot of mistakes, emotionally, legally, financially, and I was a mess. My therapist looked at me and she said, "You're killing me. You got to do something different. Let's try journaling." So all of a sudden I took my drama trauma and I started writing things out. 2 days later I would look at some of the stuff and I actually started to laugh because it's really not that bad. In the moment it's really terrible, but when you can get some distance from it and you can twist it with some humor to make yourself laugh, it changes the vibration and it changes everything. So I thought, I have something here. I need to help other women with this because divorce is such serious business and it's so hard that if you could just take a break from the drama trauma and laugh a little bit while you're learning, you can take care, you can do anything.
I know off camera you said you got married very young. And at what point, what age did you get married, and at what point during your marriage, without getting into your whole personal life, but what point did you realize that it just wasn't going to work?
I was young. I was 26 when I got married, and I'd have to be honest to tell you that a few years into it, I realized I was in trouble. I fell in love with the wrong person. You know, it sounds, I don't know if that's cliche, but that's what happened. There was great chemistry, but as a friendship, it was oil and water. And I think that we were able to stay together so long because of the chemistry, because that's a form of communication. But ultimately, we both tried, and we both loved each other, but we were both killing each other.
And you were married ultimately for how long?
Over 10 years. It was a long time.
So as you began to experience those feelings of doubt that this may not be right, did you look for help at that point, or did you know where to go, or did you not know where to turn?
We did, and we were both, let's try to make this work. You know, two nice Jewish kids, and you don't get divorced. It was so hard. Nobody in our families had divorce. So this idea was just like, no. This can't happen. So we did. We went to couples therapy. We tried a lot of different therapists, and I have to say, we both really tried and we gave it our all. So
then at that point, when you realize that it's not working through all that couples therapy, then at what point you make the decision to get divorced? Did you have all your ducks in a row, or were there things that came along the way to shock your system, to make you rethink, to make you have doubts?
You know what, yes, I think all normal, up and down roller coaster, it's a really hard thing. You know, one day you're sure you need to move, and then you're like, oh, I'm really scared, I'm not so sure if I can do this. You have all these issues of legals and financials, and how am I gonna make it on my own with 2 kids? It's a very frightening thought. And I don't know, I did not have my ducks in a row. And you said, when did you realize it? It's interesting you asked me that, because it wasn't this huge fight. It wasn't anything but a moment of clarity, like a light bulb came on in a discussion that I realized nothing's going to change. It's not fair to him, it's not fair to me, we need to move on. So then you start on this course of moving on, and you start going to the professionals you need to get this going. And I'll tell you, all through the whole time I was doing this, and for me it was a long process, it was 3 years, I was scared. I had my doubts. I did not have the right people on my divorce team. I had people that were interested in their own interests, which was, our deep pockets. So that made it terrible. Right. And I made every mistake possible. And I wanted to use my experience to help other people not make those mistakes. And
did you get separated at first, or did you try, were you doing this behind his back, if you will? That's not great language, but were you doing it behind his back? And,
you know what, I don't think I was doing anything behind his back. What I was doing was trying to get a reality check on my situation. Honestly, I was one of those girls that did not write the checks. I let myself be completely blind as to the finances of what's coming in, what's coming out, and I just gave that up. You know, from our investments to the daily bills, I don't know what I was thinking. But God forbid, if it wasn't divorce and he got sick or something and we had a good marriage, I would have been lost. So I think in the midst of that, I was trying to educate myself on what if this does happen. Get some of your ducks in a row. And I tried, but it was definitely a challenge because I had a lot to catch up on in life.
Right, so you went through that process, you ultimately got divorced, and then something motivated you to write a book about it and start first a new career in counseling and coaching women, and then the musical that we'll get to. But you started this avenue first. Where did the motivation for that come from?
First off, I was in a chiropractic business with my ex-husband, and I knew that there was...
You're a doctor of chiropractic.
Right. And that was going to be a challenge as to how I was going to fit into that whole piece.
Right.
And as I mentioned before...
So not only did you have a marriage that you were breaking up, but you had a business partnership that you were breaking up as well.
My livelihood, it was frightening. And even though I knew I could, I'm a chiropractor and I have this education, I could take care of myself, it was blood, sweat, and tears to get that to where it was, that practice. And the thought of doing it again with 2 little kids, it was daunting. It was absolutely daunting. The idea to start writing was my own therapy. I didn't have an idea that I was a writer. I had no clue. It was self-preservation. It was pouring my heart on the pages, trying to frame it in a different way so that I could kind of step back and look at it. So it really was a natural progression of my healing. Nothing more than that. And it just turned into an opportunity where it got published. And then everything just kind of exploded from there. And
you were journaling while you were in your marriage, or this was after you had gone through that separation?
It was both. My divorce took 3 years. Right. It was unbelievable. So first it started just my feelings and my should I stay or should I go, my fear, my hope. And then I started interviewing people in South Florida, men and women. And I said to them, do me a favor, I'm dying here. Tell me, how did you get through this and what did you learn? And I'd say 95% of these people opened up their hearts. They wanted to help me. And they just poured it out. And interestingly enough, I could tell by the person I was interviewing whether they fell into the sweet or the bitters. I mean, I could smell it within 2 minutes.
These are your terms?
Yeah, my terms, the sweets and the bitters.
And what does that describe?
The bitters were the people that were stuck. They were stuck in their anger and they were marinating in it. And they just could not move on. They were just like, it's like 10 years later, are you kidding me? You're still here? And the sweets were, yeah, it was not my plan A or my plan B. This is not what I wanted in my life, but here I am. And I just said, this is the cards that were dealt. What am I going to do to change this? How am I going to create a new life and have a new adventure? So they acknowledged, yeah, I'm not happy about this. It's not fair. It's not the white picket fence or the fairy tale that I thought it was, but this is real life, so let's move on. And those people were really motivating to me, and they helped me heal. So again, the book got bigger and bigger until eventually I put more of a guide in there to help with lawyers and financials, and congratulations on your divorce. The Road to Finding Your Happily Ever After was what got published by the Chicken Soup for the Soul guy, the HCI guy, and that was the beginning. So
at some point it was just a journal.
Yes.
When you first started, it was just a journal, but as you've talked about, it became more and more and more, and you ultimately authored a book.
Yeah, crazy. So
fantastic. When we come back, we're going to lighten it up a little bit and talk about the happier side of divorce and your musical, and the fun and the accomplishment of producing that.
Perfect.
We'll be right back after these messages. We're back in studio with Amy Botwinick, producer of The Divorce Party, the musical. So we return, and you wrote this wonderful book, and then somewhere along the line, you decided to write a play and musical.
Crazy.
How did that happen?
It was a progression of time. The book opened up a whole new world for me. I went from being a chiropractor to this book that got me on national television, that allowed me to get the credentials as an expert to start coaching women, to help them through what I needed help through. You know, the before, the during, and the after part of divorce.
So you left your chiropractic practice?
I did. Ironically, the chiropractor had a bad back. So it was actually a good time for me to transition. Right. And ironic how this all happened.
In mysterious ways.
It does, it does. So I like helping people. So before I was helping them with my hands, and now I could help them with my words and my writing, so it was a perfect fit for me. And I really found that I had learned so much. And to be able to make this, there's 2 parts in divorce. There's the business part, and there's breaking up the mom and pop shop of the marriage, the family. And then there's the emotional side. And the emotional side, people need to compartmentalize. And I need to send them to the right people to help them, whether it's a therapist or a life coach, something. But I'm more about what you said before, helping people get their ducks in a row, helping them understand their financial situation, and to get in their head about, don't be that princess warrior crazy woman who just wants to, annihilate because you're angry, or, you find out legally in your state what you're legally entitled to, and what you need to get through, not what you think you deserve, not what you want, but what you need, so that you don't have to do all this fighting, because it's not rocket science. The problem with divorce is that when two people start going at it and their emotions and their anger get it, it clouds the divorce and you can't get through the legal and the financial parts. So I try to get them to a calm place, get them referrals to where they need to go, whether it's an accountant or a therapist, and I help them be able to pull it together so when I hand them over to their attorney, it's clean. They become a good client, it's a good relationship, and they can move through the process quickly and then go on with their life.
Is it your belief that most divorces need attorneys, or can they go through mediation?
I'm a huge fan of mediation. I think it's a process that is overlooked. I will tell you that when I went through my divorce, because I didn't have the best people on my team, they looked at mediation as, well, it's obligatory, but nothing's gonna happen here, so just go through the process. Had I known, what I would have done is I would have hired and spent the money on a mediator who was either a family lawyer or a retired judge in the family court systems who knew what they were doing, that was strong enough to be able to make something happen. I do think that you might need a lawyer to be on your side to help you interpret what's going on, especially if you're quiet or there's a history of abuse. Sometimes you do need to have that lawyer, but the mediator could be the one to work it out, get through that process and give it a chance and make it, I definitely think mediation is the way to go, especially in today's economy.
So how do you think people go from being adversaries to where they can mediate it out? What do people need to recognize in themselves? What's the self-talk that you could give them to move beyond that adversarial role to where they should mediate?
I think it comes down to a reality check about money. I hate to say it, but I tell them, you know, I draw a picture, here's a circle, here's your marital pie, okay? Legitimately, we're gonna split it down the middle. You're gonna have to give attorneys or a mediator a piece of the pie. How much of that pie is up to you? So we can make little tiny slivers, or you're going to keep cutting into that pie that you're going to pad their pockets, and that's your kid's education, or that's your house. So you decide, do you want to fight over the silverware? Do you want to fight and use anger, or you want to keep as much as you're both going to be able to if you can calm down and look at it rationally and go somewhere else to deal with your anger? And also the kids is another thing. Kids, I mean, they're the victims in this. So act like an adult, because they're watching every move. You want your kids to be okay, then you need to act like a human being and move on.
And do you counsel people to talk about this with their friends, keep it private? How do you counsel them?
People are interesting. I have to tell you, I've had some really interesting people that I thought were my friends that weren't my friends. You need to really get rid of the vampires in your life and zero in on who your true blue. And those people you can talk to, you know, but keep your circle tight. So yeah, it's good to vent. Definitely don't talk to your kids, okay? Keep them as innocent as possible. So I definitely think you have to pick your professionals and your friends very closely. And yeah, you're gonna need to talk because you cannot get through this alone.
Very good. So let's go back, because we got off a little bit.
Yes.
So let's talk about the musical, how you got to that point in time where you were able to write a musical.
After years of coaching women and doing workshops and self-esteem, I would throw them up on rock walls and zip lines. And in the process, they would tell me their stories. And I found them so fascinating and so brave. And I thought, this is life, and it's hard stuff, but yet these people who are surviving are the ones that could twist it and reshape it or reframe it or find the humor in anything. Like, what a great gift that would be to help these people get through this major life transition and give them a break with laughter. And something that always helped me is when I'm in a difficult situation, I was taught, bring yourself out of it and look at the situation as if it's a play running itself out. So while you're really into it and it seems terrible, when you're up here, you're going to be like, that's pretty silly. You know, that whole thing is a little bit, you know, over the top, and you can then deal with the situation better. So the idea for a play came from talking to these women for years, working with them, and wanting to give them the gift of laughter.
And I know the motivation came from that, from watching some of your prior interviews, is that you were just talking to your therapist, and you said something, you were pouring your heart out to your therapist, and your therapist turned to you and said...
There were so many things she said.
Right, but she laughed, she started laughing, is the interview that I recall. She just started laughing.
Right, it was actually my mom.
It was your mom, okay.
It was a mom. I had a really bad fight with my ex-husband, and I came to lunch to meet my mother, and I'm like shaking, and I've got tears, and my mascara is dripping down me. I look like a raccoon, and she's like, what's the matter, booby? Right. And she's really concerned, and I started playing out what happened, and she's just kind of looking at me, and then all of a sudden she started laughing. And I'm like, I wanted to throw the breadbasket at her. And she's like, Amy, come on, I love you, but you're humans acting silly. This is ridiculous. Get a grip on yourself. And she was able to help me reframe my drama that was like, oh, and then she's like, really? Come on. And my mother has been a huge part in helping me twist it and turn it and look at it differently. My parents are great.
Very good. Well, we're going to come back for another segment, and I promised the viewers when we come back we're going to show a clip of Divorce Party the musical and talk a little bit more of that process and this life-changing event for you.
Great.
We'll be back. We're back with Amy Botwinick, and now we're going to talk about the musical and this fun adventure that you're on right now. So you wrote this book. You're now somewhere the genesis of the thought comes, I think I can put this into a musical.
Yeah, but I needed somebody to help me make it happen. It's a great idea.
So where were you when this popped into your head? You wanted to make people laugh through all this process.
It was weeks, it was months, it was years of thinking this. And then I started talking to people, and I would go to networking events, and it became my passion. I was relentless. I would talk to as many people about this. Do you know anybody? Is anybody in this world? I find myself at the Breakers Hotel in West Palm Beach.
Not a bad place to be.
Right, and I had nobody to talk to. It was one of those awkward moments, and I see this guy that looks really interesting with a ponytail, and I start up a conversation, and he was very nice, but he didn't want to tell me what he did for a living. I finally got it out of him, and he says to me, well, I'm the original off-Broadway producer of Menopause, the musical. I almost I didn't know what to do with myself.
Right.
And I remember saying, don't throw up on him, be calm, be cool. So I started talking to him about my idea, and he said, you know what, this is interesting because I always wanted to follow up on menopause with some major life transition that's real. And this has kind of been floating around my head too, so we should talk. So he gave me his email. He says, look, I'm traveling with my son who's a professional soccer player over the summer, email me. He doesn't respond.
Right.
After my 10th email, I couldn't take it. I said, Mark, give a girl from Jersey a chance already. So he finally said, Amy, I'm coming home, let's have lunch. So my next step was to educate him on what is a divorce party, because it seems really weird, right? Divorce party seems...
So you had already thrown divorce parties at this point in time?
Yes, and he's like, I don't get it. And I'm like, think about it, Mark. We have all these life transitions that we have some form of support or celebration for. We have weddings, we have funerals, we have engagements, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, yet this major life transition of divorce, which is sad, there's nothing. And people are just supposed to take it on the chin and move on. You know, where is a ritual? Where is the support coming in? And that's why Divorce Party is so powerful, and it's starting to sweep across not just the nation, but the world. South America is huge with this. And it makes sense because really a divorce party is an opportunity to grab your really close-knit peeps and family and do some kind of a ritual, something that can commemorate the good part of the marriage because it wasn't all bad, and then to bring closure to it in some way, shape, or form, and then move past it so you can move on and have a party and enjoy your friends, because you can't get through it alone. Right. You could try, but you're going to get stuck. And this is a really great piece for those people in divorce that have gotten done with their legal divorce. Now they need their emotional divorce, but they're stuck. This is a great first way to do it, Divorce Party.
Well, without further ado, we're going to show our audience and our viewers a clip of Divorce Party, the musical.
Great.
And then we'll come back.
You look awful, it's worse than we thought, but we will do this together all weekend. You'll make it, you'll see, without your husband, you still have me and me. Mama, just kill me now. Put a gun against my head, 'cause I'm wishing I was dead.
It's wonderful. I know it's wonderful. I've seen the longer clips of it, and looking very forward to seeing the show, and I'm sure by the time this airs, we'll all see it.
Yes.
But it is very funny, so you have to get outside yourself to be able to see this wonderfully funny side of divorce.
It is, and it's like I said, how do you take some of the drama trauma and twist it on its head and suck out the juice of the funny? And as hard as it is, and it is serious, there's a lot of funny things that come through to it. And you know, it opens up and you're going to see a lot of what people can relate to. There's a woman sitting in her living room crying over her Ben & Jerry's as she's packing up her life, and she's like, I'm stuck, I don't know what to do, and she's crying, and it's real. It's all real stuff, and it's a journey that millions of women and men take as they learn to pick up the pieces and start again. So you have this story of a woman who's having her pity party, and her sister and her friends come to rescue her and have a divorce party, give her a makeover, give her a massage, and really change her attitude so she can take on her world. And through the course of a weekend, there's a lot of fun, there's a lot of naughty, I will tell you that, and also empowerment, because it's real life issues. But you know what, we like to have a little fun to make you laugh.
Right. And so what was the process like in terms of casting, in terms of writing, in terms of developing?
It was great. Mark said to me, basically, I had this idea. He says, you know what, Booby, you can write a good book. I'm not so sure about the play. So I said, can you give me a chance? So he was nice. He gave me all the templates of all the plays he's done, Menopause, Shout, all this stuff so I could see it. And I wrote the first act. I went to lunch and I looked at him and he smirked at me. He's like, write the second act. So it was a true collaborative process because he was helpful to say, this works, this doesn't, let's think about this. We both got to the point where it was time for the songs. Because like Menopause, you use songs you know, but you change the lyrics.
Right.
I had all the songs that I knew, including Bohemian Rhapsody and My Boyfriend's Back. It spans everywhere.
Right.
And I could do a stanza because I was a counselor at a Jewish camp where we had sing. So I could do that. But it took me an hour to write like 3 sentences. I'm like, help. So he invited Jay Falzone, who is a multi-talented director, lyricist, choreographer, and to get the last few months, the three of us really pounded the workout and we created it together. It's been a lot of fun.
So when you say you wrote the first act, the dialogue, the staging?
I don't know the staging. I just wrote, the characters.
But you wrote the dialogue.
I did. I did the dialogue and I did the characters. And these characters are all people. Honestly, all the 4 are me in different stages of my divorce because you wind up being a different person as you move through this process.
Right. Are you being politically correct? You don't want to call out some of your friends who went through divorce as well? You want to put it all on you?
Well, some of them are actually my clients, some of them are my friends.
Very
and
good.
then we have this wonderful boy toy who kind of appears in different ways throughout, who is hysterical. And, it's good. I think what makes it work too is we talk about some of the taboos that you have to deal with when you go into the suddenly single world that people don't want to talk about, but they kind of do want to talk about it. And we really put it out there in a way where people are like, oh, did she just say that? And I'm like, yeah, I did. And we're going to have some fun with it. So, it's a little bit like, oh my gosh, but I'm really loving this. The audience members are really responding.
Right. And
old and young.
And the goal is Broadway?
You know what? The goal is off-Broadway.
Oh, okay.
Just like Menopause. We're going to travel around the country, and eventually we'll come to New York when New York starts calling for us. But right now, we're having fun. What we're doing, we're in Canada, and we're taking it around to the Midwest and the West Coast in the next few months.
And you have the original cast from it, or is it...
The original cast, what's great about this is we cast them in New York City. So these are top-notch, unbelievable actors. I watch them and I'm amazed. So we have a different cast in Canada because we have to use Canadian actors and they're wonderful. Right. And then the New York actors here. So we're maintaining the majority of our cast is still the same because they love the project, they love laughing, and they believe in Divorce Party, and they're so excited to come back.
Well, it's terrific. And I can't tell the audience enough to make sure you get out and see it when it comes to your town.
Thank you.
So Amy Botwinick, thank you very much for joining us on To Life L'Chaim.
Thank you.
That's it for this edition. For more information on our show, please visit us on the web at tolifel'chaim.com. I'm Lee Lazerson. Thank you very much for joining us. And To Life L'Chaim.